Chris, how would you describe what the Internet of Value is and what the sort of insight is to get us there?
Yeah, so a lot of it came from kind of the early work you guys did with pathfinding, and again, having this, anything of value can be traded. That kind of was the germ of it. But kind of stepping way back, if you look at the real problem in the world today, a lot of people point to globalization as being, not working for people. And we would say, no, it's not that it's not working, it's just that it's a work in progress, right? It's incomplete. So we could have a real globalization needs interoperability in three core things, right? Data, goods, shipping, and money. And the problem is it only has interoperability in data, obviously the internet, and shipping since the 50s with the shipping container, which creates interoperability between port to other port, ship to train to truck. But you don't have that with money. Money networks don't interoperate. And if you have that, now billions of people are onboarded into a real working, kind of system of globalization. And that's upon us. I think that's really what we're trying to build here.
The whole SWIFT thing, that kind of brought that to my mind with what you were just reading and where that's going to go.
Right. So what is SWIFT? SWIFT uses, they will be using blockchain technology that is partnered with. They use the Corda settler, which is part of R3, which is consortium of banks. R3 uses XRP for settlement.
And I think the need is very, very evident now because you have companies that have very, very light infrastructure or none in the areas they serve.
If you talk to folks at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation who do a ton of work in the financial infrastructure, of the world, the big thing that they're trying to accomplish is to allow people to send as little as 50 cents, somebody in the developing world, if they're really going to be a participant in the global economy. And that's just impossible today, right? I mean, it's really even impossible to send $50 from the US to Europe without it being all chewed up in fees. 50 cents is just not on the table. But in a world now, this kind of Internet of Value, combining things like ILP and XRP, that is absolutely possible. That is, so frictionless and so fast, it completely changes the economics. And then beyond, those billions of people that need to send 50 cents, think about the trillions of devices and code that needs to be able to send, 10,000th of a cent. That is also enabled through what's going on here. So pretty exciting.
I think the vision is to be able to make an international payment as cheap and easy as pulling up a web page, like something that you would do without even thinking about the mechanics or the costs or who has to do what. It's just so automatic and so cheap and so scalable, and there's so many of them happening that it's almost invisible. You don't even think about doing it.
Yeah, almost like the value is moving with the data, just right on top of each other. And that is a world that we can have, but not with the infrastructure you have today. You've got kind of an internet world, kind of working with a pre-internet world of money, and those things are not lining up. So this is a big bottleneck for the world. If we can push through this, that's it. And again, blockchains are not the only answer. They're a subset of the solution, but the broader solution combines this kind of value interoperability protocols with a super fast and efficient digital asset, and then with some kind of mechanism for programming how that value moves around.
Like I said, they use the meme or, level playing field. Everywhere you go when you look into this stuff, that was coined by Brad Garlinghouse at Ripple, and all the little minions out there are just repeating it.
There has to be a level playing field, both for new entrants as well as legacy entrants. And I think that's really, that I think is a fair playing field for everyone to play within.
It's like, why would we want this Internet of Value that puts everything on a level playing field? And there's a couple reasons. So one of them is we think we can win on a level playing field. XRP is faster and cheaper and perfectly positioned for the use case. And I think the other reason is almost more important, that this is not a winner take all. I don't think anybody thinks there's going to be one asset that's going to take over the world. There's going to be lots and lots of assets, and all of those assets are more valuable if they can interoperate.
And I believe that we will all eventually, and probably very much sooner than a lot of people understand or think, we will be all at a level playing field, because that's the only way it's fair. That's the only way that you can fairly compete in trade and other things. And we will be on that field, and we will all be working very hard to do great for our country.
As we do so, we're overhauling that core payment system, RTGS, so that private innovation can flourish. And by bringing crypto assets onto a level regulatory playing field, we can help catalyze a more resilient, effective, and innovative payment system.
The issue of the contribution of trade to growth, the issue of promoting level playing field in international trade was mentioned, no? So I mean, it depends how is the glass half full, half empty.
That a Federal Reserve real-time retail payment service would increase competition and decrease concentration and provide a neutral platform for innovation.
And how it can be done in the most efficient, fair and global way as possible. And that implies clearly a level playing field, no use of distortive measures, and no protectionist measures going forward.
No, this is intended to be a level playing field, whether you're MoneyGram or you're a bank or you're an online or you're PayPal. This is intended to be a level playing field. And again,
that means reducing barriers to entry for new firms and reforming competition frameworks to ensure a level playing field in all sectors of the economy, whether traditional ones or new technologies.
Now, what is our view around the Internet of Value? In a nutshell, Internet of Value for Ripple is moving money as you move information today. And many people are disillusioned about the globalization. And why? There are a series of components that needs to interoperate together in order to get to this certain level. If you think about a fire, you need 3 elements, and if one of them is missing, you will have only smoke. And I think in the world that we are living today, these 3 elements around the globalization is, one of them is around goods. And there has been disruption since decennies in order to get to this level of efficiency. Imagine about the pre-container world. The trade was 0 almost. After the introduction of the container, this was a big revolution. The trade percentage increased to multiples of hundreds. The same happened with internet. The day that we started, I think early 90s, it was very important in which network are you. Are you thinking today which network are you using in order to send your emails? No, because the real disruption is creating the interoperability between different networks. When you think about money and the process of the cross-border, which is the end leg of any financial transaction, is still handled based on a process going back to Medicis. And this hasn't changed. If you are a banker, you know that. Cross-border payment is a sequence of liabilities between the parties involved in the transaction. And nobody has changed it. It is decentralized fully because there is no central bank dealing with that. So you have a very complex process which is called correspondent banking, which is enabling the move of money from one part of the world to the other. There are a series of structural issues behind this. If you are sending cross-border today, you don't know what is the amount that will get to the destination. And I can tell you, even for a small ticket size like 50 euros, big part of it is actually absorbed by multiple intermediaries in the chain. In other words, today, if you are part of the financial industry and you are dealing with cross-border, you have to trap capitals in the destination countries. So that means that you pre-fund accounts. Banks, they do that for you, and this has a cost to the economy. As an individual, as a financial player, as any part of this chain, we are paying for this. And imagine if you are part of the unbanked world and you are sending money cross-border, if you are a remitter, and this is not around luxury, this is around really an important part of the life of the people, helping the families. And I can tell you, even in this part is even worse. You pay a percentage of the amount that you are sending to your families. The breakthrough of the blockchain started a few years ago, but blockchain has its own limitation. If you want to really interpret the word, blockchain is a network on its own. It does not have the capacity of the disruption that the container or shipping container created. So when you look at the world today, and the way that we are looking at the use case of the digital asset, because when you are talking about the blockchain, there is no way of avoiding actually the digital assets. There are different use cases around digital assets. We know Bitcoin, Ethereum, but I think the way that we look at it is more on the institutional part. Is there any way that we can revolutionize today the pre-funding process of the cross-border? So rather than trapping the capitals into destination 2 days or 3 days prior and creating this cost for the economy, is there any other way with this new technology? So our use case is very simple. And it's not necessarily replacing fiat currencies like US dollar or euro. Imagine in the more difficult or exotic currencies that there is more and more reluctancies to trap capital or keep accounts. Is there any other way of transferring money without actually sending the money in advance? So that's where we get to the digital asset. In our case, is XRP, which is our native digital asset. Is that rather than sending money in advance, the moment that you need this money, you go on demand request for this liquidity. So basically you use the digital asset, and in this case XRP, as a bridge currency between two fiat currencies. So you're not changing the board. You're not replacing currencies today. This world will continue for a few years. I don't think that we can plug blockchain and change the world dramatically. So the disruption will happen progressively. I can give you a case. So for instance, you are a payment service provider. You want to send $100 to Mexico. So you go to the crypto exchange, you have your $100, you convert that to XRP, and immediately after, you convert back to the Mexican peso, and then you onward deliver to the local market. This is changing completely the way that the banking today is happening. This world is very fragmented. And as I mentioned, blockchain is not a network of the network yet. It's adding another complexity to the existing world of the payments. So you have the network of the banks, you have the blockchain, then you have mobile money, online wallets. Can you imagine in what a fragmented world we are living? And if we don't think about what we have learned from the history of the payments, we will continue to add complexity to this world. Is there any other way of doing it? And I think that's where the next generation of the blockchain technology is leading actually to a protocol that is called interledger protocol, which is connecting any kind of the networks to other networks. So what is a disruption that a shipping container did in order to create interoperability between the ship, train, and the trucks. So is that how we can enable the world to freely transact values by using the proper protocol layer, which is the interledger, by using a digital asset that has the capacity to cope with the requirements of the instant payments and the scalability of cross-border payments. And of course, on the top of that, I think when you get more into the technical details, a level of the smart contracts who reinforce the level of the trust between the parties. This is our perception of the Internet of Value.
Yeah, and another one that Luxembourg is another one that we should look for. Chris Larson, who is one of the founding members, he's on the board up there in Luxembourg. And if you read the IMF, in order to get into the basket of currencies to be on the SDR, you have to have at least one country that adopts a digital asset. If it were to be into that basket, that one country would have to adopt it.
You want to take one? Go for it. The first one's for you. IMF. Do you see IMF holding crypto assets in the future? I did not put that up there.
Remember, I'm from the legal department. I'm supposed to be very conservative about these things. I don't want to go into great details about
Maybe
the
I
IMF.
should take what the IMF is going to do. IMF is going to do. I think we stunned Ross into silence with that one.
For that to happen, okay, under the current legal framework, some country would have to use a crypto asset as its currency.
In Luxembourg and a little country called Liechtenstein are the two countries that I've heard mentioned. That I don't know.
Today, money is locked up in distinct systems just like information used to be. If I want to pay you some money, I have to ask you what system you're on. And it's slow. Many payment networks shut down outside of business hours. Many payment networks only work in overlapping business hours between the two time zones they make payments between. They take days. They're very uncertain. There are a lot of people who will have to make a phone call to say, did my payment go through? And the payment company will say, we don't know. Call us back in a few more days. Even when payments succeed, they can be painful because there's no confirmation of receipt. And international payments are the most broken. That's kind of why Ripple chose to focus on international payments first. That hurts some of the poorest people in the world with remittances, and the performance that they get is it's just absolutely awful. So the money is siloed. Your money has to be somewhere, and if it's somewhere, it's not somewhere else, and it's never the place that you needed it to be. And that means high costs. That means that there are multiple intermediaries in any payment, and everybody wants a slice of it, and fees are enormous. That's one of the reasons for financial inclusion. If you're more expensive to serve than a financial institution can make from serving you, they're just not going to serve you. We tend to think we're overbanked in the United States because you could just go anywhere and open a bank account, but a fairly shocking statistic, 24 Americans are underbanked. And over almost 2 billion people globally are underbanked. So the financial system is not reaching everybody, and that's painful for customers. So what that means is refund processing can be quite painful. About 7% of enterprise payments are lost, 2 to 5% of consumer payments are lost. That just produces a terrible experience for everyone. And it's a nightmare for developers. So even on a large scale, you might think, you look at an Amazon or an Airbnb or an Uber, these companies have hundreds of payment engineers who keep their systems operating with hundreds of payment networks. And if you are a small person, you want to compete with them, you want to start a new business, you want to launch an app, your first step can't be to hire 100 payment engineers to integrate you with 250 payment networks. That's a complete non-starter. So let's look at how the internet solved these problems for information, and then we can see how we can solve those same problems for payments. So what are the attributes of the internet? It's everywhere. I'm sure almost everybody in this room has access to the internet right now. It's extremely reliable. It's built out of unreliable parts, but it has high-level technologies that do things like fault tolerance, failover. It just works. And there aren't counterparties. There's no company that you can call up for tech support on the internet, right? You get substantially the same service wherever you go, and everything just works with everything else. It's so open that the thought of not connecting a network to the internet is almost unthinkable right now. If you were proposing a network that wasn't connected to the internet, the question would be, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you make it easy for people to access it? Why wouldn't you make it accessible everywhere? Why would you make things complicated? What we want to do is we want to make money move the way information moves. And that's obviously a huge task. And we started on enterprise international payments. That the vision is the internet of value. The vision is money moves the way the internet moves information. The vision is payment networks interoperate the way data networks operate. The vision is payment networks are as easy to access as information networks are. So that separated into two buckets. The bucket that we started on first, RippleNet, was an enterprise payment system for financial institutions. They were not ready to make the step to open networks. Just like moving to the internet would have been pretty radical in the early days of the internet. And so we started building an enterprise payment network that would provide that level of interoperability. But that's not going to handle the developers. For that, we need a network that's open. We need something that's truly open source and accessible like the internet is. So on the enterprise side, we built this payment network called RippleNet using XRP to settle where that makes sense. The problem that solves is having to pre-position money where you need to make payments. So for example, without some sort of a cryptocurrency solution, to make a payment into the Philippines, you'd have to have Philippine pesos sitting in the Philippines. Now, if you want to make payments on Monday and maybe Friday is a holiday somewhere, you might have to move that money on Thursday or even earlier, and you have to sort of figure out how much money you need, and you have to leave it sitting somewhere. What RippleNet does with XRP is the sender can exchange their sending currency, say US dollars, for XRP, send the XRP on the XRP ledger, and buy Philippine pesos precisely when they need them. Today, over 200 financial institutions have partnered with RippleNet. You can see there's a mix of banks and non-bank payment institutions that are using RippleNet to move money globally and using XRP to settle their payments where that makes sense. But that kind of leaves out everybody else, and if we want to make payment networks truly interoperable and we want that internet of value, we need to reach everybody. We need to reach developers.
XRP we believe, in XRP we believe, I hold all that gold, XRP, yes indeed. In XRP we believe, in XRP we believe, only thing I hold all that digital gold, XRP, best believe. In XRP we believe, in XRP we believe, only thing I hold is that gold, XRP, XRP, yes indeed. The only thing we believe, XRP, XRP, only thing we hold is that gold, XRP, XRP, best believe. You can't tell me nothing, you can't show me shit, I can't hear you right now, I'm in my rocket ship, we about to take off, don't know where we're going, all I know is we're headed straight up. In XRP we believe, in XRP we believe, I hold a gold, XRP, yes indeed. In XRP we believe, in XRP we